Brian, and thanks for the invitation to come along. It was great. You know, it saved me cutting my sandwiches, which always makes my wife have a laugh. Anyway, so as Brian said, what I'm here today to do is to talk to you a bit about marketing New Zealand, how we market New Zealand tourism, and we'll talk a little bit about the Rugby World Cup, and at the end we can have a few questions. And I should add at this stage that the only question I don't know is who's going to win the Rugby World Cup. I don't know that answer, but we're all hoping. Okay. So I work for Tourism New Zealand. Now, who is Tourism New Zealand? Tourism New Zealand is a state-owned agency. Our minister is the Prime Minister, John Key, and we have a board of directors, all private sector, and we have a staff based between Auckland and Wellington and 17 different locations overseas. We're not a very big organisation. People think we're a lot bigger. We're about 112 staff. And it's our job is to, as you can see there on the screen, is to market New Zealand and to get people to, you know, come to New Zealand, stay longer, spend more and do more. And I think the best way of thinking about tourism if you're in business is our job is to get more customers into New Zealand. And if we can do that with international visitors, then they can spend money in the country, not just in the hotel and accommodation sector or in the sightseeing sector, but you know, they're filling up their camper vans and they're travelling around the country. There's a lot of retail expenditure, so that's the way to think about tourism. And as Brian said, it's a big industry. It's probably just been taken over by dairying in terms of foreign exchange earnings for the country. So where do we sit with tourism? Well, to be honest, the last 2 years have been terrible. With the 2009, I think as you all know, most of you are in business, that the global financial downturn created in the recession a lot of problems, and then we had the H1N1 flu virus going around as well. That put a lot of people off, especially from Asia. And so basically world tourism at that time, for the first time in 20 years, took a nosedive and there wasn't any growth. In New Zealand we were able to, in 2009, hold at about just 0.3% increase in our visitors, and it was really only by being able to focus on Australia and keep the Australian market coming that we've kept things at a reasonably even keel. Then along came Christchurch and that horrible earthquake, and our good friends and fellow New Zealanders in Christchurch are still suffering. But that of course knocked the stuffing out of a lot of our tourism sector as well. Christchurch is the gateway to the South Island and very important tourist destination. So we've been in basically since then a rebuilding mode, getting the message out that New Zealand is open, that it's only Christchurch and parts of the city, that the airport's functioning and can still get into Queenstown and other parts of the South Island. That has knocked the stuffing out a bit. Then just to 2011, to make matters worse, of course, not just was there an earthquake in Christchurch, there's one in Japan, very savage. Japan's our fourth biggest market. Very, very difficult times for the people in Japan. And we had the financial crisis sort of continued in Europe with Greece and Spain and other places really hitting the wall. And then our Australian market, especially in Queensland, with all the floods. So it's been a bit of a tough start to the year. So really where we sit at the moment in terms of our tourism sector is that our arrivals are just really hovering on break even. In March, after that earthquake, they went down quite dramatically, probably the biggest slump in a month that we've ever had. And also worryingly, of course, in 2010 that the visitor spend went down. So yeah, it's tough times in the tourism sector at the moment, and there's no point making any bones about that. So what does all that mean for us? The main thing that we've got going in our favour is that we've still got what the world wants. And in terms of all those core brand values about New Zealand, our environment, our scenery, the desire for people to get out and to see that scenery and to experience it, all of those things are there. Our environmental elements and are well respected, and so we've got the core product, if you like. the issue for us in the tourism sector is who are we going to talk to, who are our customers? Now I think all of you in business will appreciate that. It's a matter of defining your customer base and then working at them, getting them to come and spend the money in the country. So who are we talking to? In terms of targeting, it's a bit, when you're actually, other than in Australia, we're a niche player all around the world. So to put that in a little bit of context, Brian, you might remember, how many people, what's the population of the US? I think it's something like about 280 million or something. Right. Well, only about 20, I think it's 27% of those of Americans have a passport. Then you get to their outbound travel out of the US a year is 30 million. Now, you know, in New Zealand terms, we have at least 1 million of us going to Australia every year. So you start to 2 million go overseas. I mean, we're very much a travelling race and a nation. So 30 million out of the US goes outbound. Then you start taking out the ones that are just going across the border to Mexico or up into Canada, or jumping on a cruise ship at Fort Lauderdale and going down to the Bahamas. It's very, very small long-haul travel market. And so New Zealand, in terms of the market, we only get 200,000. So the issue is, as into all of our markets, who do you talk to? We've made the decision early on that we're not going to try to talk to 280 million. We're not going to talk to the 30 million that do go outbound. We're going to talk to a much more targeted segment of people who know where we are, what our values are, what sort of experiences we can offer, and they've got the money and the time to come down. So we're calling this group, and it's the same repeated all around the world, active considerers. So they know about New Zealand, they're considering coming here. So our job is to put the marketing lights up and then to work with the travel industry to actually convert that into a sale and get them to come down. So the active considerers, it's a bit of a waste of time. They're basically, typically, they're pre or post children, so they're either in that sort of under 35 group and they're probably a bit more adventurous, or they're post sort of 50s, 55. They've got higher than average incomes, and they're mostly experienced travellers, so they're not just coming for the first time. They've probably done a lot of trips, been to Europe and what other places earlier. However, what we have found is that they're not necessarily that adventurous, and a lot of our market research has told us that we've been probably stressing the bungee jumping and all of that adventurous stuff far too much. So this is actually a quote from the research that I think if you can see that, yeah, New Zealand's beautiful, I know that. It's also clean and safe and protective of its environment. Yes, I know that too, but while I'd like to, it hasn't totally convinced me to go there. I don't want an intrepid journey. I don't want to turn my life around. I don't want to go to the extremes of the planet and be challenged to the point of absolute terror. I just want to go there to refresh, to relax, to feel happy, and to explore new things. Show me the things I can do there, show me the other people enjoying those things, show me how easy it will be to do them, and most of all, just convince me that I'll have fun. That's a quote from the research. So that's affected a lot of our targeting. And as you probably appreciate, it's not just the older generations, but the younger one. It's all about me. I get that from my 3 children, adult children, all of their 20s. I don't know if they're Generation X or Y. I'm just happy they've left home. But travel is an emotional purchase, and the end result is not everyone wants to do the same thing on holiday or have the same experiences, and that would be terrible if we all did. So what does all that mean for New Zealand? What we're doing in moving our marketing is we're moving from the sort of traditional chocolate box sort of stuff, that it's a stunningly beautiful place with spectacular landscapes, and we're moving to it's a stunningly beautiful place, and always will be, where I can have fun, experience new things and enjoy myself. So it's less about the personal challenges and challenging experiences like the bungee and everything else. It's more about accessible travel needs. So how do we express that? And you had to know, I mean, a tourism boy, you can't come along without the visual, so here you go. So we're moving from sort of images, they're sort of wild and desolate places like that's in the Able Tasman, to more the whale watch, but you can see there's people in the images, they're out there enjoying them. It's not just the whale on its own. And this is another good one of Kafog, so it shows somebody really getting a buzz out of being in a jet boat and participating, so it's bringing those elements out. And as the end result of that, we're moving our probably world-renowned and quite famous campaign that we've had going since 1999. It's won probably more international awards than almost any other marketing campaign that New Zealand's done. It's 100% pure New Zealand. Bit controversial every now and then because the greenies like to get hold of it and say we're not pure, but it's all more about the pure experiences and things. So we're moving that from just that, we're putting in the emotional connector, the you into it. So we're now moving to New Zealand, 100% pure, and it's involving you. You can get into it. So that's a bit of a change in terms of how we're marketing New Zealand. So getting the message across to the consumers everywhere is a big challenge. Currently we get, in terms of visitor arrivals, our biggest market is Australia. There are 1.1 million of them. That operates just about 45% of the market, I think. I think it's 1.2 now. The next market is the UK, which has gone down. It's down to about 220,000. Then it's the US, it's sitting about 190,000. China's next at 100, and that's rapidly growing. Japan's about 80 something, 85, and then we cascade down quite quickly into places. Germany's about 60, Canada, Korea's about that too, and Canada. So we've got a diverse market across the world. So it's quite a challenge to get the message out to them, and so we do it in a variety of ways. So what we do is we're obviously involved in advertising, and we've been running the 100% Pure campaign, and we have reasonably big advertising budgets where we're moving increasingly out of television because there's smarter ways to advertise now. You're still using a lot of screens and cinema advertising, a lot of screens and things like taxi cabs now and lifts and a whole variety of things. Online's a massive presence for us. We do an awful lot of social media and marketing. I mean, our Facebook page on newzealand.com is now up to 300,000 fans, and that's pretty good for a New Zealand-based Facebook page. We do a lot of trade training. In tourism marketing, going back to marketing 101, you often talk about you got your product, your price, your promotional budgets and your placing or distribution. The most important things in tourism are the latter two. You've got to put your name out, your brand out there and your destination, so it's a lot on promotion, because in the end we can't do much about price because we're not selling the product, the industry is, but whichever way you cut it, if you've got to convince somebody from Germany to get in a tin can, fly for 30 hours at 30,000 feet, and spend a considerable amount of money to come here for a holiday, stuff around their margins really isn't that important. The exchange rate is okay, it affects a bit out of the US and Australia, but if it's a trip of a lifetime, it's people will pay. And then the product, we know we've got a good product, so the key things we've got to do is to get the promotional mix right, then really importantly get the distribution system working. So we spend a lot of time training travel agents and wholesalers and the offshore travel trade. We bring them down familiarisation visits. We have a lot of online training resources. We have staff offshore that run a lot of seminars and training, and we have it's just the way to get the selling done by others. We have an IMP now, that stands for International Media Program. We bring in about 400 international media a year. It's an unpaid media strategy to get the journalists to talk about New Zealand rather than us having to pay for it. And we also spend quite a lot of money on bringing some big television programs in. So out of the US recently, we've had the Bachelor, terrible program it was, but the last 2 episodes down here, the biggest loser both out of Australia and the US. A lot of cooking shows, a lot of shows of sort of surfing. We've just done a big one, Hooked on Rugby, which was basically fishing and rugby out of South Africa. So there's a lot of those shows that we bring in to get that message out. I think America's Top Model is one of the bigger and better ones we've just had. And then we do events, and Brian's alluded to that. So why do we do that is we try to get talkability up. That you see that shot just on the right there of a double-decker bus in London. That was part of the Chelsea Flower Show promotion. We took a garden, first garden to Chelsea. I think it cost us just under 500,000. It was 450 odd to take a New Zealand garden to Chelsea. Well, why do that? Well, 85,000 of A and B segment in start of the social season in England come to that show. It's a sellout, sells out in three days every year, 185,000 people. BBC broadcast live from it. They came down, we brought them down, they did a whole lot of filming down here about the garden and how it was going to go. And then it won the gold medal, the Queen came to see it, it just took off. We were on BBC 1 and 2 for 4 nights in a row with interviews, and we got an audience reach of 46 million. Of an investment of 450,000. So you've got to be smart. And then on the back of that, there was a lot of 3 tour operators were at the show selling in product. So it's just the way you do. You always got to do things. Our job is to get us noticed, get us into the consideration set. It's the travel industry and the airlines' job to sell. Then, of course, as a part of that is selling, that's the partnerships. This is just the current ski campaign with one of our partners, the Flight Centre in Australia, and I think that's, what's that package? I can't read it from here. It's at 859. 839, yeah, 839. Sorry, I thought the small print, it's right there in front of me. 839 is for 5 nights. Coming over and skiing in New Zealand, so it's a pretty good offer. Get into it. And so there's campaigns running like that all the time offshore. Digital and social media is a huge part of our effort, and we all know that it's typical sort of things when people are using the web for all sorts of things, buying, selling, banking, and shopping, and travel's right up there. And so we operate the newzealand.com, and it's one of the biggest websites in New Zealand. There are a lot of hits all the time, and we're just in the process, and actually this week next, of just moving that site from being more like a travel brochure with a whole lot of information to more user-driven content, with operators being able to put up their own material, a lot more interaction and engagement with the customers around the world. So there's a big investment in that. All right, so just the Rugby World Cup. I won't talk too much longer on this, but yeah, it's going to be a big event. We've been working on it for 5 years. What have we been doing? We've got a strategy of our job is to get the international visitors in, really. So the sort of 4 elements of the strategy we've been undertaking is that we have, firstly, we had to get the awareness that we were hosting the Cup, and we started that back in 2006. Then we couldn't really get into the selling mode with partners until the tickets went on sale, which came in at the start of 2010. So that's when the packages started going online with the travel agents. So we spent a lot of time working with the official travel agents. Then then online sales came in in September, where you could buy individual match tickets or pool packs online. So then that element came in, and then we had, and then the next sort of stage was the legacy stage, is when the Cup is on. It's our job. We want to use the international media to turn that event coverage and rugby coverage into destinational coverage, and we want to build some legacy elements out of the Cup for the future. So some of the things we've been doing is the big project. I must admit it was a bit crazy and a bit mad. We wanted to have a billboard in France and during their Rugby World Cup, and started off one of those mad conversations, well, should we make it three-dimensional, why don't we shape it like a rugby ball? And then my guy I use a lot, Mike Mizrahi, Inside Out Productions, based in Grey Lynn, well, why don't we put something inside it? Let's build a big ball and put something inside it. Being typical Kiwis and too much Pinot Noir on a Friday night, we ended up with 2 bars and it could hold 220 people. And where are you going to put it? Oh, we'll go to Paris. Wouldn't it be great if it's under the Eiffel Tower? How are you going to do that? Oh, we'll go and ask them. We turned up at the Paris District Council, wherever they are, had a chat to them. Took 3 visits, but they let us have the site and they gave it to us free. Wasn't a bad promotion, that one. So, aside from that, we've been working with the official travel agents. We're carrying on the French theme. I've had some wonderful promotions with them. The French are going to be absolutely fantastic visitors to our country. They love New Zealand. They love their rugby. They're going to be marvellous. And I had this, we've had this thing that, just to show you how much effort they're putting in, Groupe Calais Rugby, one of the French official travel agents, they had a function in Marseille where the All Blacks played. They had 1,200 of their targeted database guests, 3 big halls for dinners. They had Jonah as the guest speaker. They had Philippe Solar there, and Tana Umaga, 2 ex-French and All Black captains there as well. Everyone went to the game. They came back. They had this fantastic French brass band. We brought down a haka party from London. And then they had a French choral group, and it ended up, they're all almost doing a form of break dancing on the floor. It was just an absolute madcap party. Look out, the French are going to enjoy themselves. So, but out of that group, Calais have sold, the last we heard, something like 2,400 packages out of France for the Cup, which is really good. And we've been doing a lot of media work. This week we've got 2 groups over from us, with Emirates Airlines flying them over, a lifestyle group and a sports group from Australia. And if you're hopefully on Wednesday night, we've got a 2-minute feature in the, we take the Channel 9 coverage for the State of Origin on our Rugby World Cup with George Gregan fronting it. And it'll probably get all the leaguey fans uptight, but what the hell, let's get their cup out there. And then of course we've taken the rugby ball to other places, in Sydney. So, where it's sitting is that we're expecting over 2,000 media. Registrations are sitting about 2,400 last time I looked. A lot of those are broadcast media, but a lot of journalists. I just checked this morning, there was something like 110 media registrations even out of Argentina. So there's a lot going to come. The games, there's 48, aware of that. Over 6 weeks, and there's one big festival. If you get a chance, jump on the site, the realnewzealandfestival.com, and there's over 600 festival events now planned over that 6 weeks. New Zealand is going to go off in addition to rugby. There's some fantastic events on, so you want to get into it, and I think our guests will have a great time. And then we're expecting 85,000 visitors down here. We could be a little bit questionable with whether we will get to that at the moment, but those figures were based on 55,000 international ticket purchases online, 30,000 official travel agent packages. Some of them are possibly down at the moment, especially out of the UK. But what wasn't in that count was all the media, all the VIPs and the corporate guests. So we're continuing. We've got a big marketing campaign going on in Australia with the official travel agents, and there'll be more online marketing coming up in July when individual match tickets go back on sale on the 4th of July. So just looking further ahead I'll give you just to wrap this up. So what are the prospects? One of the keys is that we're getting new air access into New Zealand. In the end, people can't get here, you can't do much. So we've got China Airlines are coming in 3 times a week now. That's out of Taipei. Jetstar started out of Singapore into Auckland. AirAsia X, another low-cost carrier coming out of Malaysia into Christchurch. China Southern, massive airline, they're coming in at the moment 3 times into Auckland. They're going to go to later this year to Daly. Air New Zealand yesterday announced a whole lot of new capacity back into Japan and to China, and some extra flights into the US. And we're looking forward to Continental United coming in out of Texas next year. So air access is looking good. Australia will continue to be a strong market for us, but due to proximity and the strong Aussie dollar, we're going to prime that as much as we can. Asia is really going to be the boom market, and especially China. And with new air links, it's just it's going off, and it's growing at about something like 17% a year. So you can see a lot more Chinese visitors here. US and Europe will continue to be a bit of a challenge to us for the next 2 years, so they're more of a worry. But one of the things just to leave you with is that as again in business, you know, are your customers satisfied? Well, the good thing is that people that do get to New Zealand, they rate us 9 out of 10 for their New Zealand holiday experience. And then the other thing, a massive 97% recommend us to others, so that word of mouth. So we believe basically that we're quite optimistic in the tourism sector. We've got the Rugby World Cup coming up this year. We've got booming Asian economies, and that we've got the air links into those economies, and China especially will go off. So we should be able to come right and continue to grow the New Zealand tourism sector for our business partners in the tourism industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. I now ask Di to come forward and propose